These days, you never know what conspiracy theories the crazy people on YouTube are gonna throw at you next. You can't be really too surprised when Hassan, Sneeko, Dark Viber, or Vaush get controversial. But when a movie review channel all of a sudden makes a hit piece calling Wendigoon a racist conservative, you start to wonder. Horror YouTuber in praise of shadows accused not one, not two, not three, but 5 prominent YouTubers of being right-wing degenerates, and he got every single one of them wrong. Let's get into it.
But the reason that I care is because this does not belong in horror, or anywhere. I care deeply about horror, and everything that he does has demonstrated so far in his career that he should not be welcomed in our spaces, or even, just in public in general.
Who is in praise of shadows? He is a self-described breadtuber who focuses on reviewing media, especially horror. His whole shtick is to sometimes mix in his left-wing politics with his reviews. In fact, a popular example of doing this came when he reviewed the movie The Hills Have Eyes and gave some of the strangest interpretations of the movie.
On the most basic, superficial level, this is a film about cannibals killing and eating a family who get lost on their summer vacation. And psychologically, most when they watch this will be on the side of the vacationing family and wish for them to survive and make it out and get back home. And why is that? Because if you look at this from the perspective of the hill people, they are only defending what is theirs, this land that they call home. The Carter family would have never been killed if they had stayed in that monstrosity of industry that is New York, that their own kind created. It can stand.
He just implied that you're wrong to root for the couple surviving and that the cannibals are the actual victims because the New Yorkers came into their space. But hold on, his commentary gets a little bit stranger.
The hill people can be representative of anything that you want them to be, really. They can be Native Americans, and the hills themselves can be allegorical of them being forced back onto reservations. They can be Black Americans that have for hundreds of years been forced to live within a dehumanizing system that has balances in place that assure that they never get ahead. They can be anyone who has been a victim of hundreds of years of horrifically violent, white, wealthy, educated progress.
See, when he says the hill people can be representative of anything, what he actually meant was that they were only representatives of oppression and minorities. He's trying to make a point about his political ideals, so he just projected those ideas onto the movie. He makes it out to sound like this is an undeniable fact about the movie because he, of course, believes his position on the issues he's highlighting is the politically correct one, which is exactly why he went on to make this other video called Conservative Horror Movies.
There is a clear dichotomy between our two experiences, and I think there's something interesting in that. And this ties into this theory that I've had for a long time that is kind of the thesis of this video, and that I think there's actually not one, but 2 distinct horror communities that do not overlap. One that is more concerned with writing and thinking about how our own experiences and world are reflected through art. A group that overall is less concerned with how much a movie makes at the box office and more with what it is trying to say as a work of art and how it relates to ourselves and culture as people. And then you have another that is more conservative and traditionally capital A American, and is based more in basic consumerism and viewing movies strictly as entertainment and nothing else. A group that often gets angry at the very notion of subtext existing within a work of fiction, and views art not as a means to express what it means to exist, but instead that sees the value of creation just within the context of how fun and experience that product is.
Notice how he once again describes his position as the craft-loving, intelligent point of view and the people he disagrees with as the bottom-tier consumers? Well, he was about to do the same thing to fellow horror movie YouTuber Wendigoon.
If you're not aware, Wendigoon is a horror conspiracy theorist YouTuber with several million subscribers that, as you will hopefully come to see, should not be seen as the wholesome, southern-friendly dad persona that he has publicly constructed around himself in the past several years. And that, like many people who talk about being Christians as much as he does, has a dark past with deep ties to far-right extremism.
Seemingly out of nowhere, Mr. Shadow goes after Wendigoon for being a far-right nut. His first criticism of Wendigoon just seemed to be that he was rich, and he had a problem with that.
I have no need or desire to hear 5 hours of opinions on Blood Meridian from a 21-year-old millionaire who got famous around the age of 19. And I know that is probably the most boomer thing that I have ever said. Apologies for that. But I say that to argue that I really do think that there are some works that are really not intended to hit the right way until we are older. There are some works that fundamentally will not be understood by you if you are wealthy and have always been upper class your entire life.
That argument makes no sense. It really just seems like he was upset that Wendigoon was young and successful. As if he could ever prove objectively that there's a certain age or account balance you need to reach to be able to critique a movie. But this is the least of the horrible arguments Shadow was about to make. He tried to tie Wendigoon to the formation of an extremist group, the Boogaloo Boys. Something even Zane himself had to admit Wendigoon had distanced himself from and wasn't a part of as soon as it became dangerous. Then he goes on to say this.
Also, it should be noted that the Boogaloo Boys are known for wearing Hawaiian shirts. And guess who else always has on a Hawaiian shirt, despite the fact that he publicly totally does not share in their beliefs, guys. And seemingly more so means people as a very select group. Wendigoon is very publicly friends with Turkey Tom. They have been seen together on multiple occasions, and I've seen online mentions that Tom was either at his wedding or at the very least was invited. Tom has been accused of using the N-word multiple times in private conversations, including these screenshots of texts that are alleged to be real. And he has also been accused of saying that the upper tiers of his Patreon were intended for Jews with deep pockets.
He thinks it's compelling evidence of someone being far right that they send edgy messages on a chat forum. What's even worse is that he thinks being loosely connected to this person in any way automatically makes you a dangerous extremist yourself. So what else?
And he has also been accused of saying that the upper tiers of his Patreon were intended for Jews with deep pockets. Wendigoon is publicly connected to the Internet Historian, and has even appeared in his videos. The Internet Historian publicly said that his birthday was April 20th. It is not, and has only said that as a joke because that is Hitler's birthday.
He actually just accused an internet historian of being far right because he made a joke. He says it's a Hitler joke, but it's more likely a 420 weed joke. Either way, it doesn't work.
Wendigoon is publicly friends with Donut Operator, and even retweeted a photograph of the two of them hugging. Donut Operator is a gun-crazed, very far-right YouTuber with 4 million subscribers, whose career consists of him reviewing footage of police officers shooting and killing people. He was once a cop himself, before he made more money making YouTube videos and retired. His content is very pro-state, pro-cop, pro-gun, and pro-death to people who don't share his beliefs propaganda. For example, one of his videos is titled Predator Takes Shotgun to the Face, and features a picture of him smiling in the corner of the thumbnail next to an image of a terrified man about to be executed by cops, with the text that reads, head removal.
Next, he goes after the donut operator and he straight up lies or leaves information out on purpose to make his point. The video in question that he's talking about was of an armed child predator getting shot after reaching for his weapon when confronted by the police. But this guy wants to somehow spin the narrative to make the donut operator out to be the bad guy for celebrating that.
He's collaborated with Nick Crowley, who constantly makes money through the most morbid and shameful true crime content of showcasing the last minutes of people before they are suddenly and unexpectedly killed. Crowley is similar to Wendigoon, in that on the surface they seem fairly edgy but clean enough. But then you notice that he follows less than 200 people on Twitter, and among them are the same circle with names like Wendigoon, Plagued Moth, Turkey Tom, Mr. Ballin, and Donut Operator.
Then he moves on to Nick Crowley, and he really just doubles down on his whole your friends determine who you are spiral. He doesn't even provide any examples of Nick doing anything far right. He just concluded that based on a few people he follows on Twitter who aren't even confirmed to be far right to begin with.
He is publicly friends with Shoe on Head, who is a conservative masquerading as a leftist, who has built a career off of lazy anti-woke content complaining about SJWs, who says stuff like, Karl Marx rising from the grave finding out his movement has been taken over by fat, ugly, mentally ill losers.
Continuing to pick off friends of Wendigoon, he moved on to Shoe on Head, and again his only proof of her being far right is an edgy tweet.
He is friends with Brandon Buckingham, a gun YouTuber who has been accused of threatening rape.
He gets a little crazy with this one as he goes after Brendan Buckingham, citing false allegations that Sneeko lied about. This is further proof that Mr. Shadow here did no research for this big and revealing hit piece video beyond trolling on Twitter.
He is friends with Oompaville, a gun-obsessed content creator that has taken advantage of Nakado Avocado's mental decline for fame and for money, and on top of that has made content with the human trafficker Andrew Tate. He is friends with Mutahar, who argued against Andrew Tate being deplatformed from social media websites, and has recently showcased a great deal of transphobia in his most recent video.
Going after Oompaville of all people, he accuses him of taking advantage of the mental health of Nikocado Avocado as if he doesn't know Nikocado is putting on some sort of act. Then he goes after Mutahar for being transphobic when the literal tweet that he's citing for this is saying otherwise. The tweet from Mutahar literally reads, "Uploaded a new video regarding a serious fraud of an activist known as Keffels. Over an hour of deconstructing her various lies and examining her terrible lies will prove to you why she's a danger to the people they represent and those surrounding them." In what way is any of that transphobic?
I've also seen people insinuate that Herrera was with Wendigoon in the days of being part of the Boogaloo movement, but I cannot find substantial proof on if this is true or not. But I've seen several comments saying this.
He says that as if he's given substantial proof for any of the things he says. And to wrap up this segment, he said that a town in the region Wendigoon is from, white people should all be considered racist until proven otherwise.
Deep Appalachia is very white country, and for the most part, is exceptionally racist. Genuinely in this part of the country, you have to assume that any white person you meet is racist unless they show you otherwise.
It's one of the most backward arguments you'll ever hear. Calling a huge group of people racist just because of where they came from is racist in itself. It's fair to say that this video was immediately clowned on by his audience and everyone online. Wendigoon even cleared up a few things with Willie Mac in a private chat.
I asked Wendigoon if Zayn ever reached out to him before making his video. He said no, he never reached out. There was a lot he got wrong even objectively that I would have been happy to clear up even for a hit piece. For instance, my parents were not rich. In the quote he even reads, I say my dad lost everything, and that was all before I was born. So Zayn never even reached out for clarification before assuming the worst from this guy and everyone who's ever appeared in a photo with him.
Brendan Buckingham ripped into him on Twitter, pointing out the hypocrisy, saying, "I forgive you for thoughtlessly defaming me, but claiming all white people in deep Appalachia should be assumed to be racist and saying Wendigoon should not be welcomed in public because of his assumed beliefs really shows how hateful and insane you are." Oompaville quote tweeted Brendan Buckingham, adding, "At Praise Shadows is a picturesque example of true bigotry masquerading as an enlightened tortured genius that operates with empathy, nuance, and compassion above all else." There are so many of these people. It's so how lost some smart people are. Eventually, Zayn deleted the section of the video slandering Wendigoon, and then he proceeded to delete the 3-hour video entirely. It was too late though. The damage had been done and he was getting roasted left, right, and center. Brendan Buckingham made a 1-hour long video responding to the hit piece, and in it, he offered Wendigoon the opportunity to respond directly to all of this.
Please do not harass, be rude, unkind to anyone on my behalf or any behalf. That's not what I stand by. That's not what I stand for. It makes me sad to see people who claim to be my fans, people who support me, go down to their level, so to speak, right? Just attacking someone, being rude or whatever. I like to think I'm better than that. This guy, he seems to hate me a lot, which is fine. Not everyone has to like me. Have I ever said anything to this guy? Have I ever been rude to him, said anything about him? And I don't think I have. The points he espoused in the video is that, you know, it's because I followed him, because I liked his video. He took us something else. Maybe that's all. Maybe there's more. I don't know. But whatever it is, I'm sorry if I've attributed to that in any way. And regardless, I'm sorry he feels that way. Saying that you don't like him or you don't like his videos or you don't like him as a person, whatever, it doesn't help. It doesn't help me. It doesn't help him. It doesn't help resolve the situation. To him directly, I'm sorry for this perception of anything I've given you. I'm sorry if I've ever devalued from you or your channel. I apologize, and I sincerely mean it. I hope you find whatever you're looking for. I want everyone, regardless if they like me or not, to do well. I hope you do well, and I'm sorry for all of this happening.
Wendigoon has remained graceful throughout the whole thing. Others haven't been so kind. Oompaville responded to the whole thing on Brendan Buckingham's video as well, and he didn't spare him.
But really, the thing that I didn't like about the whole video was him just calling out all of Appalachia, like 25 million people, like using that as a reasoning as to why Wendigoon is a people. And 25 million people are just racist unless proven otherwise. Should maybe spend 15 minutes in Appalachia before overgeneralizing 25 million people. How can you say so much that's just blatantly wrong, say it with conviction, stand by it, and then delete part of your video, stand by it, and then take a month off. Like, this is actually something you couldn't write into a TV show.
Shoe on Head also covered shadows in her own video, and she took her own pound of flesh, basically just pointing out his hypocrisy.
He has publicly interacted in a friendly way with the account Rock Solid on multiple occasions.
Responding to someone on Twitter makes you best friends with that person. Hey, by the way, this you being friendly with YouTuber Sophie from Mars, who is allegedly an abuser, is that you, bro? Because according to your own logic, not mine, that makes you and her friends, which makes you a bad person.
Zayn has since addressed the drama on Twitter and now deleted tweets where he offers half-hearted apologies. He's even managed to tick off his own fans and is now taking a break from creating. He's refused to take full accountability and is still playing the victim. This was a meltdown of a single man who can't even comprehend the possibility of being wrong. The true result of being so deep in his own politics that he's allowed it to shade and cloud every single aspect of his own personal life.
Because their real views are so socially abhorrent. And the thing that people kept saying to me in all of this was, why do you even care? Which, if you watch the comments under the video, I guarantee you will happen again, with takes like, oh, he's just a YouTuber. Why does it matter? Or, so what if he's a conservative? Is that a problem? Which, the answer to that is yes.